I need a break. No contact, she said, her voice steady, measured. There was no anger, no hesitation, just a clear statement. I didn't respond immediately. I listened, noting every word, analyzing the tone, considering its implications. My chest didn't tighten. There was no panic. I catalogued it as a deliberate move, intentional, not impulsive or careless. I set the phone down and surveyed the room, quiet, normal, yet inside. I mapped everything logically. This break could be temporary, a test, or the prelude to something else. Her choice of words suggested she prioritized her own reflection over maintaining our relationship. No need to read between the lines. Her intention was explicit. She wanted space. I reviewed the past few weeks systematically. Our conversations, minor disagreements, subtle withdrawals. Nothing dramatic, but patterns emerged. This break wasn't a surprise. It was a logical continuation of behaviors I had noticed but underestimated. Then a notification popped up. Her mother had tagged her in a social media post. The content was harmless, light-hearted, but the timing was telling. Her public presence, while demanding private distance from me, created leverage, not emotional chaos, but strategic positioning. I observed carefully, noting the potential implications. Her mother could be influencing her subtly. A gentle nudge while respecting the boundary she set with me. I sat still, cataloging my response. I could react, but strategy dictated patience. Messaging immediately would appear rash, possibly desperate. The optimal path was observation, analysis, and planned engagement. I acknowledged my emotions' mild irritation, slight frustration, but did not act on them. Recognizing feelings without letting them drive action. I considered the options, ignoring her online. Activity maintained dignity and respected her boundary. Confronting her mother directly risked escalation. Contacting her directly violated her request. Therefore, the strategic choice was to observe and prepare for eventual contact. Every action had to serve a purpose. Gather information, clarify boundaries, confirm status. Timing and phrasing were critical. I ran through possible scenarios. 1. She returns willingly, ready to communicate openly. 2. She extends the break indefinitely. 3. External influencer. Mother complicates reconciliation. Each required flexibility, calm, and calculation. Emotional reaction would be a liability. Strategic patience, an asset. I made mental notes. Messages would be brief, precise, neutral. Avoid emotion. Each response must serve a purpose. Information gathering, boundary clarification, or status confirmation. Social media was to monitor context, not react. Precision outweighed immediacy. I reflected on our shared history, discussions about future plans, mutual expectations, prior commitments. None of that negated her stated need for distance, but it informed my strategy. She wasn't withdrawing out of malice, just self-prioritization. The key was navigating the situation without compromising my position or emotional stability. Night fell. I remained seated, calm, neither restless nor panicked. The apartment was silent. My phone lay beside me, notifications muted. I did not dwell on her absence. Emotionally, I analyzed it. The break was a variable, not a disaster. Her mother's tagging was a data point, not a provocation. I mentally rehearsed contingencies, phrasing, and timing. Calm, calculated. By the time I finally rested, Everything was clear in my mind. This was a test not of feelings, but of patience, judgment, and communication. Any rash action could compromise clarity and fairness. I felt no anger, no despair, only a firm determination to handle the situation with calm, strategy, and precision. Tomorrow, I would weigh options, plan engagement carefully, and maintain composure, regardless of external factors. The morning came with a quiet clarity. I reviewed the situation logically. She needed space, and her mother's online activity added a layer of complexity. Every notification, every subtle update became a data point. I catalogued them without emotional reaction, noting patterns and timing. Messages from friends mentioned her casually, commenting on posts she had liked or shared. Each piece of information had to be filtered, interpreted, but not acted upon impulsively. This was a situation to manage, not to react to. My role was observation and strategy. I made a mental map. Her social interactions online versus the explicit boundaries she set with me. The discrepancy was notable. She was visible, active, engaging in life, yet intentionally distant from me. I didn't feel betrayal on the recognition of the dynamics at play. Influence from her mother was now a variable to account for in any future engagement. I considered my options: confront, inquire indirectly, or remain patient. Confrontation risked escalation. Indirect inquiry could appear manipulative. Patience preserved clarity, authority, and composure. The optimal path was to wait, gather more context, and prepare for calculated communication. Every action had to serve purpose, not impulse. I reflected on the previous weeks, cross-referencing minor conflicts and signs of withdrawal. The patterns now had context. Her decision for a break was not irrational. It followed a logical trajectory based on our interactions. Understanding this allowed me to strip away emotion and approach the situation analytically. Hours stretched. I observed without interfering. Each social media post she engaged with, each tag from her mother, became additional information. I made mental notes, analyzing timing, content, and potential motives. I did not comment, like, or respond. I watched. I documented internally. Patience was a weapon. Reaction was a liability. By evening, I had constructed a preliminary plan. I would continue monitoring quietly, remain disciplined, and wait for a signal indicating she was ready for engagement. The break was a controlled variable, not a disruption. External influences, her mother's tagging, her activity online, were now part of the dataset. I catalogued them, prepared to use the information strategically when the time was right. I ate dinner mechanically, went through the motions of routine, but internally remained alert and observant. Every thought was measured, every action calculated. I reminded myself, emotional reaction was unnecessary. Clarity, timing, and precision would dictate the outcome. By the end of the day, I had synthesized a framework for engagement. Short, neutral communication when appropriate, focused on information and boundary confirmation. The path forward was clear, controlled, and deliberate. I slept that night knowing I had not been reactive, and that strategy, not emotion, would govern the next steps. The following days passed with the same quiet rhythm, but my mind was far from idle. I continued adhering to the no-contact rule, even as every notification made me pause and analyze. She hadn't reached out, no messages, no calls, but her online presence offered data points. And I observed every detail meticulously, each post, each interaction. Each tag from her mother was recorded mentally. Timing, content, context. I felt no irritation, no hurriedly. The act of gathering data, analyzing it, and preparing for the next move. This wasn't about control. It was about understanding the bigger picture and identifying the right moment and method to approach her. I started mapping her behaviors when she was online. What kinds of posts she engaged with, how her mother intervened. Everything became data. I concluded that this break wasn't random. It was intentional. She was controlling her personal space, while family, especially her mother, exerted indirect influence. I had to calculate every move carefully to maintain balance. Day by day, I constructed possible scenarios in my mind. If she was ready to communicate, I needed a short, clear, neutral message, devoid of emotion. If she extended the break, I had to determine the proper duration of patience while maintaining absolute composure. If her mother overstepped, I had to anticipate a measured response that preserved my position. Every scenario was carefully considered. I spent time evaluating my own feelings. There was no reason for panic or overreaction. Any unease, anxiety, or slight jealousy was acknowledged, but it would not drive my actions. Calmness and control were the only weapons in this situation. During the day, I focused on work and routine, but my mind remained alert. Every action was measured, replying to emails, attending meetings, eating, sleeping, all followed normal rhythms, but with continuous mental observation. I analyzed every new piece of information, assessed relevance, and updated my internal plan. One evening, I noticed she had commented on a mutual friend's post. I only took note, no interaction. She was still participating, still present in the outside world, yet clearly maintaining distance from me. This confirmed that any approach had to be extremely careful, step by step, and strategic. No rush, no emotion, just logic and data. Over the next few days, I continued to observe without intervening. The break didn't end, but new data kept coming. Online times, likes, comments, subtle interference from her mother. I organized it mentally, prioritizing relevance, so that when the moment came, I could engage with the optimal message. Respecting her space while maintaining control, I began to realize that this distance, though uncomfortable, was an opportunity to test patience, observation skills, and strategic thinking. I didn't let emotion dictate my actions. I let data and logic lead. This wasn't a failure. It was a test of composure, situational reading, and maintaining initiative in a relationship at night. I sat down, rehearsing scenarios in my head, when to reach out, how to phrase messages, timing, content, everything planned meticulously. I went to sleep with a complete sense of calm. I hadn't acted yet, but I was prepared for every eventuality. Strategy, not emotion, would guide the next steps. A week had passed since she declared she needed space. I maintained my principle. No contact, no emotional reaction. Every new piece of information, alike a comment or a tag from her mother, was analyzed carefully. I noted timing, content, and potential intentions. Every detail became a data point to build a precise strategy for future engagement. That evening, I happened to notice a small story she posted on social media. The content was simple, light-hearted, but one subtle detail caught my attention. She asked friends for opinions on a personal plan without mentioning me at all. That moment provided crucial information. She was still actively managing her own life, still observing her surroundings, yet deliberately keeping distance from me. I recorded this in my behavior map in my mind. I sat down, analyzing her actions logically. Every move, no matter how small, was data for planning the next steps. Her mother's tag that appeared a few hours later wasn't random. It was calculated, exerting subtle pressure, reminding her of social expectations. I felt no anger, no irritation. I observed, recorded, and prepared for any scenario. I knew that reacting emotionally now would be detrimental, while staying calm preserved my initiative. Over the following days, I continued observing without intervening. I tracked her online habits, her active times, the types of posts she engaged with, and her mother's indirect involvement. I organized all the information into a mental strategy map, prioritizing relevance and potential impact. When the right moment arrived, I would communicate precisely, respecting her space while maintaining control. During the day, I focused on work and daily routines, yet my mind remained alert. Every action was carefully measured, replying to emails, attending meetings, eating, resting, all followed a normal rhythm while keeping constant mental vigilance. Every small detail was analyzed: likes, comments, online timing, tone, and phrasing. One evening, I noticed a subtle signal. She replied briefly and politely to a mutual friend's message without mentioning me. This moment was a strategic data point. She was willing to interact socially, but was still maintaining clear boundaries with me. I recorded it but didn't act. Instead, I continued analyzing, assessing impact, and planning detailed scenarios. If she initiated conversation, how I would respond. If she maintained distance, how long I would wait. If her mother intervened more strongly, how I would respond. I realized that this distance, though uncomfortable, was an opportunity to test patience, observation, and strategic thinking. Personal emotions were acknowledged, but did not drive action. I felt no disappointment or despairantly the opportunity to test calmness, maintain initiative, and manage the situation effectively. I spent additional time observing other interactions. Friends, colleagues, even acquaintances I knew through social media. Every detail helped complete the bigger picture: her behavior, priorities, family influence, and the boundaries she set with me. Nothing was overlooked, no impulsive reactions, just observation, analysis, and planning. At night, I sat down again, rehearsing detailed plans in my head: timing of messages, phrasing, content, order of steps, and potential contingencies. Everything was prepared meticulously. I went to bed with complete calm, no action taken yet, but prepared for every scenario, ensuring the next move would be fully controlled. Strategy, not emotion, would guide every decision moving forward. Nearly 2 weeks had passed since she declared she needed space. The situation remained unchanged. She maintained her boundaries, didn't text or call, yet her online presence was steady. I stuck to my principle: observe, record, analyze. No interference and no emotional reaction. Every small action of hers, comments, likes, or stories she posted, became strategic data. That evening, I noticed a subtle signal. She liked a post I had shared a few weeks ago. Not much, not obvious, but enough to take note. I analyzed it. This was an indirect signal that she still cared cautiously, but wasn't ready for direct contact. I placed it on my behavior map in my mind, categorizing its importance and predicting its potential impact. I spent the entire evening planning, step by step, Every scenario was considered. If she initiated a text, how would I respond politely while maintaining control? If she continued keeping distance, how long should I wait and track indirect signals? If her mother intervened too strongly, how would I respond without losing composure? I also prepared contingency plans for any unexpected situations. If she suddenly blocked communication, posted something surprising, or if friends and family influenced her, every possibility was anticipated. I realized that in this situation, every action is strategic. No impulsive reaction, no letting emotions take control, and every minor data point mattered. Recording indirect interactions and subtle signals was my way to maintain control and initiative in the relationship. I began constructing a detailed behavior map. Her online habits, types of posts she engaged with, interactions with friends and family, and even indirect interventions from her mother. One evening, she shared a small post, the content closely aligned with my past interests. I didn't interact, only observed and recorded. This detail became important. She still retained common interests, but wasn't ready to open direct communication. I analyzed it. Patience was required, while preparing neutral, concise messages, focused on facts, not emotions. I expanded my observation, watching her interactions with friends, colleagues, and mutual social media contacts. Every small detail helped complete the overall picture: behavior, priorities, boundaries, and outside influences. I prioritized data, assessed impact, predicted potential responses, and created step-by-step strategic plans. This distance, though uncomfortable, was an opportunity to strengthen patience, refine keen observation, and practice strategic communication. Personal emotions were acknowledged but did not dictate actions. Each new piece of data was recorded, analyzed, and incorporated into a comprehensive plan, forming a complete picture of her behavior and motivations. I even tracked online times, interaction patterns, content types she was interested in, and her mother's indirect interventions. Every action was analyzed carefully. Why did she like this post? Why respond to a mutual friend this way? Why did her mother post that subtle comment? Every detail went into my behavior map, categorized by importance and potential influence. So when the right moment came, I could approach precisely, effectively, and tactfully. At night, I reviewed all options: timing of messages, phrasing, optimal content, order of steps, and contingency plans if circumstances changed. I created a comprehensive strategy map, ready for every possibility. Everything was meticulously prepared. I went to bed with complete calm, no action taken yet, but prepared for every scenario, ensuring the next step would be fully controlled. Strategy, not emotion, would guide every decision moving forward. I realized that with each small data point, each subtle signal, I was not just observing but accumulating strategic experience, improving my ability to read situations, maintain initiative, and handle any eventuality. This distance, though challenging, was a test of clarity, analytical skills, and emotional control in the relationship. Every future move would be led entirely by logic, strategy, and absolute composure. Nearly 3 weeks had passed since she said she needed space. I maintained my strategy: observe, record, analyze, no hasty reactions. Every signal, no matter how small, was added to my behavior map. I knew that a single misstep could ruin the initiative I had maintained for so long. One evening, I noticed her mother tagging her in a post about responsibilities and relationships. It wasn't a direct message to me, but it clearly exerted subtle pressure on her. I observed. She didn't react immediately. This was important data. I analyzed her behavior. She was considering, processing information. But still, keeping her distance from me, I sat down, noting every detail, the timing of posts, her reactions, and how she interacted with her. Each factor was analyzed, its level of influence, potential impact, and the optimal approach for engagement when the right moment arrived. I created a list of action signals. If she initiated a text, if she replied indirectly on social media, if she remained silent. Each scenario had a precise, careful, and tactful response planned. The next day, I noticed her posting a small story about a shared past interest. No mention of me, but enough to indicate she still remembered our common interests. I didn't react, only recorded it. This was a strong signal. She maintained a mental connection, but wasn't ready for direct contact. I assessed the timing was approaching, but patience was required to avoid violating the boundaries she had set. I continued observing other interactions, friends, colleagues, and mutual social media contacts. Every small action, comment, or like was analyzed meticulously. I categorized data by importance, direct and indirect influence, so that when action was needed, I would know the precise timing and approach. During this time, I focused on maintaining a normal rhythm in life without missing any details. Work, routines, friends all continued as usual, but my mind remained alert, always ready to observe. I realized that this distance, though uncomfortable, was actually an opportunity to test patience, reading situations, and executing a refined strategic approach at night. I reviewed the most detailed options, when to message, phrasing, optimal content, order of steps, and contingency plans for sudden changes. Every detail was meticulously prepared. I went to bed with complete calm. No action yet, but prepared for every scenario, ensuring the next step would be fully controlled. I realized that now, everything was no longer simply waiting. This was a moment where calmness, strategy, and keen observation would determine the outcome. Every data point, signal, and action had to be evaluated, analyzed, and planned in detail. I understood that a well-timed, correctly executed decision would create a turning point, and I was ready for that moment. Nearly a month had passed since she said she needed space, and I had observed every signal meticulously. At this point, I knew it was time to make a decision. Every prior action, every small piece of data, each like, comment, or story led me to this moment, to choose the right approach, precise and fully controlled. One evening, she posted a story about a personal experience, gentle but subtle, without mentioning me directly. I observed every detail, her word choice, timing, rhythm, and underlying emotions in her words. This was a clear sign that she was opening up indirectly, allowing me to prepare the next step without losing initiative. I sat down, taking notes on every detail, analyzing her entire behavior, from how she interacted with friends to comments that didn't even reference me. All data for strategic planning. I prepared a cautious message, short but complete in meaning, revealing no personal emotion, focusing only on factual connection and subtle engagement. I double-checked every detail, timing, context, and her likely reaction. Everything had to be perfect, no delay, no mistakes. When I sent the message, I had no expectations, no anxiety, just observation and recording. The waiting period for her response was the greatest challenge. My mind remained calm, continuing to analyze. Her reply came, brief, polite, but clearly an opening signal. I read it, noted it, without rushing. Every subsequent move had been meticulously pre-calculated. Over the following days, exchanges progressed step by step, cautious and strategic. I maintained the principle: no emotional impulses, every message and word carefully considered. Every action of hers was observed and analyzed to adjust my strategy accordingly. I even monitored her online rhythm, the short stories or posts she interacted with, to gauge mood and readiness for communication. Gradually, the distance began to shrink. She started direct conversations, but still maintained boundaries. I realized that patience, careful observation, and clear strategy had produced results. No pressure, no emotional outburst, just logic and control. Every signal read correctly, every move perfectly calculated. I spent time analyzing each response, how she replied, the speed of her messages, word choice, even subtle signals many might overlook. Every detail became data for the next move. The distance, seemingly a challenge, became an opportunity to reinforce initiative, situational awareness, and strategic thinking in the relationship. Another evening, she brought up a sensitive topic we had once debated. I did not react immediately. Instead, I observed, analyzed, and recorded every detail about her attitude, phrasing, and tone control. This was an opportunity to assess her current mindset, define boundaries, and build an appropriate response. At night, I reviewed the entire process, from distance, subtle signals, to the final strategic move. I realized that calmness, continuous observation, and detailed analysis had produced the result. Every piece of data, every behavior, every signal had been used optimally. From this moment on, every decision in the relationship would be guided by logic, strategy, and absolute control. The story did not end with an emotional explosion or drama, but with a perfectly executed strategy at the right moment, proving that in sensitive relationships, patience, detailed analysis, and action control are more important than anything else. From distance, silence, and subtle signals, I established initiative, and every next step would be guided entirely by strategy and logic.